Welcome to the God, Money, and Me introductory series. It is the combination that brings prosperity. I am so glad you've made a decision to spend the next 60 minutes together with us on this very, very important webinar. We are going to cover an introduction to some of the most powerful concepts and ideas that will revolutionize, that will open your eyes, that will just take you to whole new levels in your finances, in your business, actually in all areas of your life, but we're talking about money here tonight. So welcome to the God, Money, and Me series. You know, I don't know if some of you relate to this picture where you have just been running against the wind in your business, in juggling all the things that you do in your life as women wearing so many hats, and you just feel like you've been pushing and pushing and working and trying to move forward, but you feel like you're running against the wind and you are mentally and physically exhausted from the effort. As I travel around, as I meet women and men everywhere that I go, I just find that a common feeling is I'm just tired, I'm stuck. And you know, you just seem to, it's not because we're lazy, you've been working hard, you've been pushing hard, you've been trying, but somehow you just get stuck. You know, when I was speaking last night, a woman came up and said, you know, I have been absolutely stuck for 2 years. Maybe you've been feeling that way. Maybe it's been a week, maybe it's been a month, maybe it's been a year. Maybe like the woman last night, it's been many, many years where you're just not making progress. And maybe you have been desirous of moving forward. Maybe you've spent hundreds. Maybe you've spent thousands, like myself, on books, on seminars, on programs. You've tried to get more organized. You've tried to learn how to market. You've tried to learn to understand social media and stay on the cutting edge. You've tried to learn sales techniques. But the fact of the matter is, after it's all said and done, you are no further along. You know, maybe you have a strong desire to prosper, to live a prosperous life. You want to walk with God, but somehow those two seem unrelated. They seem confusing. They don't seem to go together. And you know, perhaps you're not living on purpose. In fact, maybe you're not even sure what your purpose is. Maybe you say, you know, Brenda, I don't even know what my purpose is. You say, I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave something of value. I want to contribute, but somehow I don't feel. I feel like more I'm in a survival mode. I'm surviving. I'm not thriving. And legacy, I'm leaving a legacy of debt. I'm leaving a legacy of exhaustion and burnout. Maybe you feel like you've been just living many, many lives. Maybe your life feels fragmented. Especially as women, you know, we wear a lot of hats, and you have one world when you are in the workplace. Maybe you're working 9 to 5. Maybe you own your business and you're working a whole lot more than that. And then you got a little different life on the weekends. Maybe that's when you're going to seminars, or you're doing the whole sports things with your kids, or so many things. And then, you know, there's church on Sunday morning, and maybe for some of you, you're just putting on your happy face and trying to find some joy there. But it just, none of these things seem connected. They're like different worlds, different lives. And on it goes, this fragmentation in your world. Well, I want to tell you that I've been there. I have felt what you feel. I have felt the burnout. I have spent the nights crying. I have spent the nights praying. I know what it feels like. But I also know that there is a solution. Here's the key, because I have learned that there are really 3 things you need to look at to get true, lasting, permanent breakthrough with the results that you're looking for in your finances, in your business. And so we're going to give you a little introduction to what I call the 3-in-1, my signature 3-in-1 approach to business and financial breakthrough. And that is, we are going to talk about your unique brain wiring, Yes, your brain is wired different than everyone else's. Maybe you figured that out, maybe you haven't, but it is, and you're going to understand that more as we go through. We're going to look at your spiritual wiring, and yes, just like you have brain wiring, you are wired spiritually in a way that makes you totally unique to accomplish what only you can accomplish, your unique purpose. And I'll tell you, there's something so powerful when you understand and you work with your spiritual wiring and you understand the mindset and you understand the spiritual laws that get you the breakthrough you're looking for. And you know what? As a business owner, as someone who has started many multi-million-dollar companies, who has developed large sales forces, seven-figure sales forces, who's been in that type of industry of training and motivating and mentoring leaders for over 2 decades, I can tell you we also have to talk about number 3. The rubber meets the road at the action. And the whole point is that you can be fully you. You can live a life full out. And I don't mean full out exhausted. I mean full out enjoying, having a blast, prospering in all areas of your life. So instead of running against the wind, you have the wind beneath your wings. So I can't tell you, as one who has been on both sides of the spectrum, how powerful it is to move from running against the wind to having the wind beneath your wings. To be in line with who you are, whose you are, the purpose on the planet. And you know, I'm not here to talk to you about any religion or any particular church. I'm here to talk about you fully thriving, experiencing the wind beneath your wings. You know, I've had the privilege of knowing how to do it right and how to do it wrong. So you will learn as much from my mistakes, I'm sad to say, as from my successes. And you know, there's nothing I ever teach that I'm not living and don't apply to myself. So a lot of this stuff that I teach, it's for my benefit, and you just get to benefit along with me. But I can tell you, I have experienced the many sides of money, the many extremes around money. You know, as a child, I had what probably looked like the ideal life of luxury. You know, I had an indoor swimming pool. Our house burned down, but it looked a lot like this picture, almost identical. And so to the right of the picture right there of that indoor swimming pool was my parents' bedroom overlooking that. And to the left side of the corner there, that was our living room. It had a fire pit. And there over by the kind of the palm trees, there was a waterfall that went into it with a rock diving board that I could jump and play in our indoor swimming pool. And when I got tired of that, I could run down to the barn and I would competitively show on the weekends in the finest of horse shows. Actually, I was a candidate to perhaps train for the Olympics. I was able to have a trainer that was on staff, if you will, on our property with the horses right there on our property. Lessons the minute I got off school, I was there taking lessons every weekend on my way to a horse show. And you know, my parents lived that life of luxury too. They were very involved, and not only in the business community, but we had a lot of wild and crazy Hollywood parties. So it was not unusual for me to sit on the lap of a movie star or to see all the craziness that goes along with that. So what looked like, wow, I mean, I wish I could have grown up that way. But what I can tell you, that as my childhood brain was developing and experiencing all that appears this life of luxury, I was also experiencing a tremendous amount of dysfunction. And I was experiencing things that no child really should ever have to go through. I was experiencing a whole lot of domestic arguing, and you see this child holding their ears. I actually would hide in my closet. I would hide under my bed so that I wouldn't have to hear it any longer. And alcoholism and drug abuse were part of our world, my parents' world. A lot of emotional abuse and a lot of violence. I mean, it was not unusual for me to come home from school and never knowing what to expect, never willing to bring a friend because I didn't know what I could expect. I could pull up at the front door and have my mom with broken glass shattering her wrist and blood gushing everywhere. or come home to ambulances and her overdosing. Or I could come home to Christmas trees going through windows and, dishes all over the floor and ashes through fish tanks and axes through Jaguars. It was a crazy, crazy, anything but happy lifestyle that I grew up in. And what I've learned is that unconsciously, most of our beliefs, how we feel, the ideas, the attitudes we have around money, and actually the scripts. You're going to learn more in later seminars that I do, and where I really get into scripting. You actually are living by a script, like a movie is directed by a script. You actually have scripts about money, about your finances, about your businesses. Well, mine were formed in this confusing time between the ages of 5 and 8. Now, you can probably imagine the incredible conflicting beliefs that were forming in my little 5 to 8-year-old brain. And unfortunately, those would be with me for many, many, many years to come. In fact, I had scripts and viewpoints about people that were wealthy. They were greedy, cheating, lying scumbags. You know the ones I'm talking about. The ones that are in every movie as the villain. Next time you go to the movies, just pause for a second and ask yourself, who's the villain in this movie? And my experience is that 9 out of 10 times that villain is the wealthy person. That'll be the one that neglects his family, that loves money above all else, that has alcoholism, has drug abuse, is a cheater, a liar, is selfish, is ruthless. Just watch. Watch the programming you're getting everywhere you go, every day, and you wonder how we get these scripts. The words that we use. Filthy rich. Oh, and then the misunderstanding of biblical concepts. If you were like me, you grew up hearing that money is the root of all evil. I'm here to share a little different perspective, and we'll get it right straight from the source. So, these scripts, we have them for the wealthy, we have them for the poor. So for me, on the other hand, the poor, they were the virtuous. They were the good guys. They were the generous ones, the humble ones, the holy ones, the honest ones. The Mother Teresas of the world. They were the good guys. And in that scripting, in my belief system that I formed between 5 and 8 years old, I made an inner vow. I would not be aware of this inner vow for many, many years. That's a whole nother story I'll share with you in another seminar. But I made an inner vow that when it came to money, I did not want any. Didn't want anything to do with it. By adulthood, things really got crazy. You see, I married my polar opposite. I married an ambitious Korean who had come from the opposite of the indoor swimming pools. He had come from a shanty on the edge of a dirty river. He had made up his own scripting and his own beliefs and his own ideas about money, and it was quite the opposite. Whereas I vowed I didn't want any, he vowed at all costs he would have some. Now, do you think that might have caused some conflict? I'm here to tell you it did. And of course, I went over and volunteered overseas for a couple of years, and when I came back and I got married and I took a job to get us started, I had a job and a boss that I like to say was from hell. Her name was Trudy. Maybe some of you have had a Trudy in your life. She had a way of taking no matter what I did and have it be wrong. She had a way of making me feel so incompetent, so small, so unskilled, so hopeless, so miserable, that actually my husband, as we were getting started in our one-bedroom apartment with no furniture, struggling, splitting our sandwich, would pick me up in our Ford Granada. I still remember it. Our white Ford Granada with the kind of shredded green roof and the green seats. And he'd pick me up because we shared a car, and we'd go to a park and eat our sandwich. And every lunchtime I would cry and cry and cry. You know the bottom line? I was stuck. I wasn't working within my gifting. I wasn't working within my brain wiring, my spiritual wiring, nothing. I was stuck. And maybe some of you are feeling that way. But you know what I know? When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And that's what happened for me. I had a coworker, and I still don't know to this day. I don't know if she saw potential in me or she felt sorry for me. But I guess it doesn't really matter. She gave me my very first set of personal development cassettes. Okay, I'm dating myself, I know, with the cassettes, okay? This cassette album had a big phoenix on the front. It was Brian Tracy's Psychology of Achievement. Well, you know, 25 years later, I am excited. I just co-authored a book with Brian Tracy. I was on his television program. I'm telling you, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and when you apply the things you're going to hear today, things turn around and you find yourself with people and in places that you never dreamt of. You truly find yourself living your dreams, actually pinching yourself to see if it's for real, every day being a joy, and having the results and the money and the resources and the health and the energy and the passion being fully you. That's what this is really about. So I began to discover the keys to breakthrough. I began to discover that this 3-in-1 approach worked, and I put it to the test over many decades. Coaching people, mentoring sales force, raising leaders, having employees, starting companies, running companies. I began to see that this was tried and true. That this 3-in-1 approach of working with your unique brain wiring. You see, your brain has a unique energy advantage. It was designed for a certain purpose. And there's thoughts and attitudes and beliefs that you have picked up. And their scripting, as I've mentioned. Your spiritual wiring, you have spiritual mindsets, and some of them are not producing the results that you want. So then you kind of have to stop and you look at the mindsets you have held to so passionately and kind of say, hey, is it working for you? Because if it's not, now is the time to have a new set of mindsets. You know, there are spiritual laws of prosperity. I have been a student of success for really 3 decades. I have spent thousands and thousands and thousands attending the best seminars in the world, reading the best books in the world. I have spent a long time studying success, and I can tell you that wealth, prosperity, follows certain laws. And when I say law, I mean it works for all people at all times in all places. That's what I mean. So the law of gravity, it doesn't matter if I'm in India or I'm in Africa or I'm in America. If I jump off a building, I'm going to experience the effects of the law of gravity. Now, of course, you know, this example, you can take me to the moon and it changes. But when I'm talking about the spiritual laws of prosperity, they will work for you. They work for all people, all times, all places. And, of course, I'm big on actions. I'm not going to leave you without actions to put this to work and get the results. I am all about bottom line results. I'm about seeing your bank account having more, seeing your sales going up, seeing your business prosper, seeing your employees happy, seeing your sales force thriving, seeing your team working together. I'm about prospering in all areas of your business when we're talking about God, money, and me. So let's get started. Let's talk about the brain wiring in this brief introduction to let you get a little taste of understanding this. Brain wiring. Now, most of you, if you study the brain, you're pretty comfortable understanding that there's a left and a right hemisphere. It's not uncommon for someone to walk up and say, well, I'm really right-brained, you know, I'm creative, I'm this and that. Or I'm left-brained and I'm analytical, or some people make a joke and tell me they're whole-brained and all that. Okay, so most of you understand that there is a left and a right hemisphere. What you may not know is that when you look at the anatomy of the brain, there's actually 4 divisions. There is a lateral fission that goes across and divides the brain actually into 4 parts. There's 8 lobes, 4 divisions, 2 frontal and 2 posterior. And so what we know our knowledge has really increased after the advent of the PET scan. And the PET scans show us something very interesting, that each person from childhood was born with an innate, what we coin brain lead, or an innate energy advantage. What do I mean by that? I mean, of those 4 quadrants, there's one of them for you naturally that runs cool. We call that your unique energy advantage. You'll actually see blue on the PET scan. Okay, and so of the 4 lobes, this lobe right here, if you looked at this like your face, and so up here we would call this a frontal lobe. This would be the frontal left lobe, and you can see the one in blue right there, the frontal left, running cool. And you can see the other 3 lobes running hot. I'll explain what I mean by that. There's a frontal right, okay, running cool. A basal left, that's the posterior lobe, the basal left, and the basal right. Okay, so 4 quadrants that we see in the PET scan showing that one of these is your unique energy advantage. And in this quadrant, you will be at your optimum. You will enjoy what you're doing. Your brain runs effortlessly. What we know is that yes, you can. You say, well, I tend to use all of them. And yes, you can. You can develop a skill set. You can become skilled. I won't say highly skilled, but you can begin to be very, very good at using any of the other lobes. But I'm going to talk about the cost and the price that you'll pay for that. Let me use the analogy of being right-handed, or if you are left-handed, you could substitute that. So assume that you are right-handed, and so you eat with your right hand, and you write with your right hand, and you pitch a ball, or whatever. You do everything with your right hand, and then you got injured, and your right hand had to be completely in a cast, and you could no longer use your right hand, at least not for the next 6-8 weeks. And so during that time, life has to go on. You still have to eat, and you still have to write, and you still have to live. So what will happen? You will adapt. Now, it'll be clumsy. It'll require more energy, but over time, you can start teaching yourself to write with your left hand and do things with your left hand. But here's what we know when it comes to the brain. Even though you can do those things, we know from the PET scan, we know from the studies, you spend 100 times. Now, I'm not exaggerating. When I say 100 times, I mean 100 times more energy when you do tasks that are in brain leads, not in your innate energy advantage. I'm talking about the glucose, I'm talking about the oxygen that you're using, etc., etc. You're literally frying your brain when you're using those other ones. So here's a little different picture. You see the 4 lobes, and you see a little graphic there to help you. We go into great detail in unpacking this, more than I can do in a 1-hour webinar. On our God, Money, and Me seminar, we spend a very large chunk of time, and you will have the opportunity to take the BTSA, and that is on my website, prosperandallthings.com. And this test is probably the most accurate assessment tool that we have right now out there. Not perfect, but the most accurate that we have found so far, and allows you to see what is your unique innate energy advantage. What is your brain lead? And it'll show you what it was as a child, and it will show you where you are right now. And you may be living in a very adapted state, and it will let you know the cost of that. It'll also look at your introversion, extroversion scale. It will look at your sensory preference, how you learn. You'll get like a 21 to 25 page report on that. And at the God, Money, and Me seminar that we're going to do, the event, all day. We will unpack this and you will totally understand this for you in general and for you. But just real quick right here. So on the frontal left right there, you see the little dartboard with the goals and so on. And frontal lefts are about setting goals, and they're about winning, and they're about, hitting the target, and et cetera, et cetera. The frontal right is the visionary, and you see a puzzle there. They are about solving problems. They are about, future focus and creating solutions. The basal left, you see the pillar there, and they are the ones that do best with the activities that really are routine, that sustain life and sustain business, and they are critical for what we're doing. The basal right, they are the harmonizers. They love harmony. They are, you see the two hands being held there. They love relationships. They love harmony with other people. They love harmony in the environment. And we'll talk all aspects. We will talk about this in relationship to money. Each one of these quadrants handles money differently. And you'll learn as a side benefit how you handle relationships, how your language is different, how your goal setting is different. I mean, there is so much. Everything is different. And once you understand this, you'll understand your children. You'll understand your employees. You'll understand if you're in sales, your clients. You will just have a much better understanding of yourself and others that will make life so much easier and smoother and not so exhausting. So as you go through this, we know that if you spend more than 50% of your time in activities utilizing quadrants, not in your innate gifting, not in your brain lead, well, the cost is very serious, actually. As I mentioned, some authors like Benzinger has said in her book, Thriving in Mind, we're actually frying our brain. That red that you see, we're actually frying our brain. And over time, your brain may begin with just procrastination. You wonder why you procrastinate and procrastinate and procrastinate doing certain activities, and you kind of beat yourself up about that. You thought you were lazy. You set goals to overcome procrastination. You listen to tapes on procrastination, and actually a lot of the times when I have coached and done seminars and worked with people, top leaders, brilliant leaders, I have found out that is simply the brain trying to say, stop. You're using 100% more glucose, oxygen, you're frying, and you are in danger. It's going danger, danger, danger. Please, mommy, don't force me to do this. So it's a very serious thing to understand this. And if you do not listen, it will result in some very serious exhaustion. You will be at a much, much higher risk of burnout, of a crash. We have been seeing all kinds of nervous system crashes. We're seeing all these anxiety disorders, panic disorders, just flat out nervous breakdown crashes, midlife crises. We are really seeing the results of not paying attention to this information. And it's not just your mind. It's not just your brain. Your immune system is affected by it. You are at risk for some very serious illness. You are at risk for a much more rapid increase in aging. You will age much faster. So this is really important information, not just for getting breakthroughs in your career and your business, but really for life. For life. This is serious stuff. So the second aspect, that's the brain. The second aspect is really learning to work with your unique spiritual wiring and looking at your mindsets and looking at your beliefs and looking at your scripts. It would be many, many years with that childhood belief just deep in my unconscious before I would bring it to my awareness. It's why I believe in coaches. It was one coaching session that brought to me, and I will share that story in my seminar, and it took me from being stuck at one pay level to just really creating exponential, absolute, off the charts. I was stuck at $2,200 a month. It didn't matter what I did. My income was $2,200 a month. I'm talking 25 years ago. And it took one wise person, one coaching session of getting a grasp on understanding this. And I believe many of you will have this breakthrough at our God, Money, and Me, at our 3-part webinar, at our God, Money, and Me seminar, where you will get this breakthrough, where the next month after that, I went over 3,000, then over 5,000, over 7,000, over 10,000, over 12,000, went on to make millions and break that ceiling that was holding me back from the resources that were really my birthright from God. It was me that was holding on to the limitations. And we're going to unpack, like I said, I am not sending you to any particular church or religion, but we are going to unpack some a lot of wisdom when it comes to understanding finances and the spiritual wiring behind them. You know, the Bible, interestingly enough, we think of it as a holy book and helping us to live holy lives, but the Bible has a lot to say about money. And it's not what you might think, believe it or not. You know, there are 500 verses on topics like prayer and faith. That's a pretty heavy topic, a weighty topic. There are 2,350 verses on money and possessions. I guess it's important and we should pay attention. You know, of the 38 parables that Jesus told, 16 of them deal with money and possessions. So it's a serious topic. So as we look at the spiritual wiring and we look at the mindset around it, I have found that there are two extremes. And at the God, Money, and Me seminar, I give you actually a quiz. But the extremes, one of them focuses around poverty. It focuses around lack. Okay? And the other, there is a Greek word, and we'll unpack it. It's mammon or mammonas. And they are opposite extremes with very opposite syndromes. But here's the thing as we unpack it, what you'll find, because we find that people are in one or the other extreme. Either they're walking out with an extreme sense of lack and scarcity, and there's not enough to go around, and there's especially not enough to go for me, and there is hoarding, and there is fear, and there's anxiety. Or on the other end, there is this entitlement, and this greed, and this lust. A lot of addictions come on this other extreme. But here's the key. Neither one of those are the root issue. If you want to get a weed out of your garden, you got to get down and you got to dig out the root. So we will look. These are just symptoms. We will get in and look at the deeper issues, the root issues, so you can get those roots out of your life once and for all, never more to be bound by them. Here's, if you've seen anything that I write, of course, it's the name of my website, Prosper in All Things. It's the name of my company, Prosper in All Things. And it comes from this verse. And the verse goes like this: Beloved, I pray you prosper in all things and be in health. Don't neglect the health part. That's part of the prospering. Even as your soul prospers. That's found in 3 John 2. You know, it starts out, beloved, because it is my belief that you are created in the image of God. You are created with enormous potential. You are dearly, dearly loved. And it is my belief, and I will share with you why and unpack it, that God wants you, contrary to what you may believe, that God wants you to be poor and that money is evil and that God and money don't go together. I will show you that I believe that God wants you to prosper. And He wants you to prosper. When I say that, it's not just money. He wants you to prosper physically, financially, relationally, spiritually, emotionally. He wants you, as it says in here, prosper in all things. And be in health. But here's the clincher. Even as your soul prospers. Now, you know, in Scripture, it's really interesting. The word soul means mind, will, and emotions. This will be very enlightening for some of you. Your prosperity is directly linked with your mind, will, and emotions. As your mind, will, and emotions grow, as your mind, will, and emotions grow in understanding, as your mind, will, and emotions are able to apply these concepts and they prosper, you will prosper. There is a direct correlation with how much money is in your bank account, how your company is doing, and how your mind, will, and emotions are doing. As your soul prospers, so does your finances, so does your business. When we look at the mindset, we also need to look at the spiritual laws of prosperity. The spiritual laws of prosperity. This verse says that the law is better to me than thousands of gold and silver pieces. I've often asked the question that if I gave you 2 briefcases, and in one briefcase, I gave you $1 million. I gave you what it says here, 1,000 pieces of gold and silver pieces. And in the other suitcase, I gave you these skill sets. I gave you these spiritual laws of prosperity. I gave you this mindset and belief, this understanding of your brain. Which one would you take? I'm telling you, the one with the understanding of this is worth way more than the $1 million or the thousands of gold and silver pieces, because once you get this understanding, you can create that million not once but twice but 10. You have unlimited creative powers to create the businesses of your dreams, the lifestyles of your dreams, the resources of your dreams. That's why this is so important. This we're talking about is absolutely foundational for your future. So there are spiritual laws, like I said, like the law of gravity. And many of you probably know some of these. I don't know if you spend a lot of time diving into them and applying them and relating. We will make these very practical. We're not just going to be theoretical in this information. It's going to be bottom line practical. What can you do with it today as you go home? How can you apply this and affect change? So, there is the law of giving, which is the first law of creation. We know in the Bible that God so loved the world that He gave. He gave His only Son. God is a giving God. We'll unpack the law of giving and how it opens the law of receiving. Many of you have been focusing on getting, and I will tell you that this first law of creation, getting, is this first law of giving in a congested, I like to say constipated state. It is a spiritually, financially constipating state. There is the law of attraction. I'm going to shed some new light on that you probably haven't heard. Law of receiving, law of promotion, law of expectation. There are so many. The law of expectation, I'm going to just pick one of the dozens that we're going to cover. The law of expectation. Scripture says, according to your faith, be it unto you. You can substitute the word expectation or expectancy. According to your expectancy, be it unto you. There is a scriptural story that is fascinating that brings this principle to light. And it is 3 kings, and they are going out to war, and they realize that they are completely out of water. So there's no water for the soldiers, there's no water for them, there's no water for the animals, and they say, we're in deep trouble. And they do some very wise things. The first thing is they say, man, I think I'm missing some truth. I think I need to get back in line with these spiritual laws and these spiritual principles. And so they say, is there a prophet in the land? Is there anyone that has an access to this truth? Because if I can line up with this truth. And so they bring in a prophet. And the prophet says to them, make this dry brook bed. The river bed was dry. And it says, make it full of trenches. And watch God work. It says, even though you're not going to see any wind or any rain, those trenches you build will be filled with water. I would like to say there's a spiritual principle, a spiritual law of prosperity in this, and it has to do with what are you expecting? What are you preparing for? Because see, you may be saying something with your mouth. You may be really good at giving some affirmations. You may be telling people the affirmations, and yet you are making preparation for something else. You may be saying, yeah, God's going to provide the money, God's going to provide the sale, and then you're preparing what if He doesn't. And when you're saying one thing and you're preparing for the other, let me tell you, you're going to get what you're preparing for. So if you're real serious about attracting that soulmate in your life, you better look at how you're preparing for him. Does your house even have room, him or her, for that person? Does your life have room? You're preparing for a new home. Are you unpacking and getting rid of all the stuff you don't want to take to your new home? You're preparing for the new business. What are you preparing? You must begin to put in place, and we'll talk a lot more about this law of expectation. You see, change your expectancies and you change your conditions. That's from The Secret Door to Success. Was written in 1900, was true in 1900, and is still true in 2012. Change your expectancies. You change your conditions. And let me tell you, with this law of expectation, it works for faith and it works for fear. Job said, that which I feared has come upon me. You see, he lived in fear that he was going to lose all of his possessions and his children and everything. And guess what came upon him? So both are attractive. Fear is just negative faith. The two can't coexist. And so you will find that that law of expectation, if you ask for one thing but you prepare for another, you're going to get that which you prepare for. You see, the interesting thing is I believe God has provided all the resources. The limits, they're on our side. There's the story of the widow who was having an expectation that she was going to die. She just had enough for her last meal for her and her son, enough oil and enough bread to make one for their last meal. And the prophet came and said, go gather as many vessels as you can. And she went to all the highways and byways and brought back as many as her belief allowed her. And she brought it home, and the oil, it is reported, filled and filled and filled every vessel. And when it got to the last one, it filled that and the oil stopped. Let me tell you, it works that way in our life. The oil stops not on God's side. It's our expectations. It's our limiting beliefs. It's our scripting. It's our not understanding these spiritual laws of prosperity. Don't you think it's time we understand all of these laws of attraction, of receiving, of promotion, of supply, of increase, of gratitude? These are things, when you apply them, will completely change your life. You see, working with the law instead against it is like that picture you see right there of the light switch. It's like when you understand it, it can become as simple as simply turning on the light button and understanding, like an electrician, that when you do that, it floods your mentality with illumination and understanding. That comes from a very powerful book, again, written quite a while ago, Working with the Law by Raymond Hollywell. Okay, let's wrap it up and talk about getting into action. At our seminar, we go through all kinds of action where you leave actually with an action plan in place and ready to roll. But we deal with getting your mindset ready, having a personal growth plan, having a routine that really works, taking the test, determining your innate energy advantage, becoming aware of how you're spending your time. This alone is huge. And you know, when you have to do things that you don't fit within that, it's very simple. You just do them less than 50% of the time, and you sandwich them in small chunks. So we teach you how to schedule, how to structure your time so at least 51% is spent in your energy advantage. We teach you some very special questions, how to ask the right questions, how to set goals. These are workshops that I do. I do some very powerful goal setting workshops that I haven't seen others teach the way that I do, and a lot of tools that really make it work. I teach dream boarding, journaling, mind movies, financial plans in ways that I haven't seen them taught. It's just me gathering close to 30 years of experience of what really works as a corporate president, as an entrepreneur, as a leader of large sales forces, as a coach, as a speaker. I just have honed it in to a way that is no nonsense and gets the bottom line results. So what's your next step tonight? I just congratulate you on being here and listening to this. And this was a little sampler plate. This was just to let you get a taste of some of the things you can begin to apply to get yourself unstuck and moving in the direction of your dreams. Well, I have a very special discovery series. It is the God, Money, and Me Discovery Series. And that's where we take an in-depth look. We teach you how to leverage your unique brain energy advantage. There is a way for you to handle your office. There's a way to handle your finances. There is a way to leverage it to produce the results. We help you identify on the spot your limiting beliefs and change your view of money forever. We teach you how to work with the laws of prosperity. You will eliminate procrastination. Sabotage will be a thing of the past. The exhaustion, it's amazing. When you get in line with these things, the exhaustion just vanishes. It's as if you just have energy and you just say, I can't believe it's this much fun. Can this really be this much fun? I'll tell you, I put in a lot of hours, but it's because I'm having a flat out blast. I keep, I write to one of the leading brain function experts that I do things with, and I'll say, is it really supposed to be this fun? Because I'm just having a blast, and you will too. Burnout, that'll just be a word from the past. No more running against the wind. It's time to enjoy the wind beneath your wings. So you want to join us for the God, Money, and Me Discovery Series. It is 3 one-hour webinars. So we're going to go 3 times in depth of what we just did in this little introductory. It is 3 one-hour webinars, and that is at 6 p.m., and it will begin on August 28th. So 6 p.m., August 28th, 30th, and September 6th. Now, if you have a problem with any of those dates, there will be replays available, and then we will have some additional dates that we'll announce in the future. The regular price for this 3-part series is $147, but we're going to give you a special price because it's really important that you act today and you start applying this. I'm meeting too many people everywhere I go that, I just had someone walk up to me last night, and a man, and he said, do you work with men too? And I said, well, yeah, of course. I know a little bit more about women, but yes, of course I do. And he said, I don't know if it's midlife crisis. He said, my brain is fried. I'm not accomplishing things. I'm burned out. I'm not having fun. I'm confused. I said, this is time. It's time to put that stuff in the past and really discover who you are and live fully who you are. So I'm offering a special price right now of $97. And you can get that at prosperinallthings.com/money02. That's www.prosperinallthings.com/money02. I'm going to close with the same verse that I opened with, and that is, beloved, I pray that I'm talking about you here today, you who are listening that are saying, oh, can another seminar really help me? Is this what I was waiting? I'm telling you, when you hit the right one, it makes all the difference in the world. It did for me. It took me from being stuck no matter how hard I worked, no matter how hard I tried. I was more frustrated. I was more exhausted. I was more miserable. I just didn't see any hope. I literally would spend my evenings crying in the bathroom. And I would just really wonder if this is all there was to life and that there must be a better way. I believe that you can prosper in all areas of your life. This is relevant, even though it's a God, Money, and Me. Boy, you're going to be able to begin to apply it in every area of your life, that you can be in health as your soul prospered. So take action today. If not now, when? How far down do you have to go before you do something different? I don't want to see you as one of the people that just crashes. I want to see you as one of the people that runs up and says, I can't believe the life I'm living. I want to pinch myself. You're right. Instead of running against the wind, I truly am having the wind beneath my wings, because you know what? That's what you were created to do. You were created to live full out. You were created to make a difference. You were created to bless others with the gifts that are inside of you. And you can't do that when you're fried and burned out and stuck. You were created to bring life everywhere you go. So join us for the Discovery Series, prosperinallthings.com/money02, and we will see you there. God bless you.